Welcome to our podcast where we talk about clean air and navigating the world of parenting during COVID. I'm Issara,
And I'm Lisa.
and we're just parents trying to put all the pieces together, do our research on COVID, clean air, keep our kids safe, and just kind of have these long form conversations. Lisa's got some things queued up to that we want to react to that happened this week on X, some studies and some tweets and stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up a few things and talk to you about one of my favorite scientists on Twitter. He's an aerosol biologist, and talk about what he has been saying recently and go through a video that really explains why we should care about this stuff. I want to talk about Al Hadrell, and he is, as some of you guys know, this is this amazing scientist out of the UK, Canadian science out of the UK. And he talks about clean air in schools and how it really does give kids a chance to do well. So missing time means you're missing lessons. And also, if the air quality is bad, you can also have worsened test scores, not only because you've missed your lessons, but because the air quality itself is bad. And so this video is really powerful. So Clean Air for Kids is an organization out of the UK, which we are really big fans of as well. Ruth Brooker was on our second podcast, being interviewed by Issara, and Al Hadrell works with Ruth on Clean Air for Kids in the UK.
Tips that parents can use to help students maximize their chances for success. Top in the list is simply attending every class while being rested and alert. Now, clearly,
I think these two things are key, but he's going to get into some really good stuff next.
A lot can be done at home before arriving at school to make sure this happens. For example, simple actions like making sure the student gets to school on time after a good night's sleep will have a positive impact. Now, even though precisely the right things are being done at home, these exact same issues can be a problem. And the reason for this is what's inside the school, specifically the air. Now, indoor air is a complex mixture of gases and suspended particles. And with every breath, a student is sampling this mixture.
Do you remember this, Issara, when we were kids? I swear, this constant cloud of chalk smoke was throughout the 80s. This is like a key memory of my childhood.
Totally.
Was this chalk smoke?
I can still smell it and taste it.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
And every breath matters. There are many forms of indoor air pollution that come from a range of different sources. Particulates, such as dust or mold, can irritate the airways, causing a range of respiratory issues, from a cough or sore throat through to triggering asthma attacks. Volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, from things such as cleaning products or building materials can cause respiratory issues similar to those caused by particulates. Along with that, studies have also found that they can affect concentration.
So this is wild in here. I mean, I don't think most people know this. I certainly did not have much of a clue about this, that you could spray, we used to spray Lysol on everything when we were kids, because it was supposed to clean stuff off. That spraying things like Lysol and other harsh chemicals in the air actually is pretty bad for you. If people think they're cleaning the space, and it's actually making it worse.
Yeah.
And so this notion that you could spray your spray cleaner, right? You get, the classroom gets dirty, and the teacher sends the janitor in after school to spray things, or the teacher's wiping down with Clorox wipes, whatever it is, whatever has landed on the surface that gets wiped by a chemical, that chemical typically dries and then flakes up and aerosolizes into the air. So you think you're cleaning things, and sometimes you are, but sometimes you're actually making the air quality worse. I had no idea.
Carbon dioxide, or CO2, while commonly associated with climate change, is another form of indoor air pollution. CO2 has been shown to affect how well students perform scholastically, specifically when the concentration of CO2 exceeds 1500 ppm.
Here's the thing that there's no way to answer it, but I'm okay, what does it mean? What's going on in your brain when you can't concentrate as well? We, like with COVID, when people were oh, I can't taste stuff, and you're and they were oh, that's kind of crazy, and you're dude, I'm pretty sure that's neurological. That's not your taste buds stopped working. That's your brain stopped processing, a region of your brain isn't processing taste. Yeah, got damaged. It's not your taste buds. And so with concentration, I'm just, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, okay, sure. Like, they obviously, I think it's true, but like, I'm also like, what is happening? Because concentration's in your brain. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I'm sure that long
Anyway,
COVID and COVID stuff is something to do with people's, brain fog is like not a joke. But also carbon dioxide, even before all of this, is interesting. You know how like you're sitting in a meeting room at work, or you even remember before when you were a kid at school, and it would be almost lunchtime and recess was like a million minutes ago, and you're just like, get me out of here, I'm ready for lunch. And but you'd be just so like just done, right? That is carbon dioxide a lot of the time. Everyone's been breathing in that same room. The temperature, it's just getting hot. It like the gases are in the air, and school children, if you look at this right here, school age children also exhibited a slight decrease in simple task accuracy when exposed to ventilation manipulated CO2 concentrations of 1500 to 3000. Folks,
hmm,
that is a large
that's
number.
high.
You do not
Yeah,
want that. And I think I could be a little bit wrong on this. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to misquote, but in California, if you've had a school that's been remodeled more recently, you're not allowed to hit 1500 without an alarm going off on the CO2 monitor that's in the classroom. But I still think 1500 is too high.
totally.
Problem solving have been reported. As the CO2 concentration gets higher, over 2000 ppm, students may even become drowsy. Further,
That scene is so familiar. I mean, I'm taken back like many, many years, but yeah.
negatively affecting their performance in school. Now, in a classroom, the main source of indoor CO2 is exhalation. Thus, along with the CO2, aerosols also exhaled. So if the CO2 concentration in the air is high, the amount of exhaled aerosol in the room can also be high. Microbes like influenza, measles, SARS-CoV-2, and other viruses associated with the common cold may be exhaled within the aerosol. And this can happen even if a person is not showing any symptoms.
Yeah, because I think it's important to point out here that for COVID, what we know is that somewhere in the realm of like around 50-60% of transmission happens before someone is showing symptoms.
Yeah, like
So you can
and
totally
I,
be feeling fine and looking fine, and this is why air quality is so important to me. Is like I'm wearing a mask indoors, period. But your mask isn't perfect all the time. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. And so if you're indoors, you want to have like clean air in there because people all over the room could be sick and you just wouldn't know.
yeah, the kind of the image that I had to like internalize for me because it's so weird how our like all of the cognitive biases and like things that come up with this topic when you talk to parents, when you talk to teachers, it's very strange, right? Like you will have the like if you've done this, you know what I'm talking about. You will have the strangest conversations in your entire life when you talk to parents and teachers about this stuff, where
Yep.
like you just mind-boggling. You're like, huh, okay. But like, I think one of the things that's like sort of makes sense is like it's not like people don't think about it like that. But what I sort of had to like um discover for myself, and I'm not a scientist, so I'm sort of wrong, but I think this is sort of right, is that it's kind of like peeing in a pool, you know, like because air basically behaves very similarly to liquid, like just the physics of it, just the turbulence, and like we all have a lot of experience with like water and like things like coming out of like your hose or your faucet or your tap or just playing with water or like being in a pool. And so for me, like water has been a very intuitive metaphor, like just jets of water and just imagining like the dispersion and stuff like that. So like, if like you're in a pool, even if it's a big pool and some little kid pees in the pool, like that it's not really staying there like where that little kid
No,
was, because the whole thing is moving, all the water's moving, like and the air is moving and all that stuff. So that was kind of like
like
the
milk in your
visual.
coffee.
Yeah, it's like milk in your coffee. But for some reason, the image of a little kid peeing in a pool is very visceral, especially as a parent, you know. And so like that's kind of like really, if you think about it, like you can kind of imagine that if a little kid pees in the pool at the far end, it's only a matter of time before that pee is evenly distributed in the entire pool, and it may be a little bit of concentration, but it's going to be everywhere. It's not like, and sure, there may be more or less based on like what the, what the dynamics of how the water's moving. But in general, given enough time, it's really the pee is going to be everywhere, And so like when I see this, I'm like, okay, even if one person is doing it, you're going to get like, if they have a pathogen that's like airborne, it's going to be evenly distributed after a certain amount of time.
Well, and this is why there's a layered approach. And this is why it's important to not only have central HVAC picking up a big chunk of what's going on, but also have portable air purifiers in different areas of the room so that if there's a kid in the far right corner who's sick or doesn't even know they're sick, but has cooties that are transmitting through the air, that gets caught up by that filter. Yeah, maybe it'll reach the other side of the room, but probably not much, if at all, if you're getting the filters moving in the right way, much like a pool, right?
Yeah.
We don't not go into pools, but also peeing in pools doesn't cause you to have like massive, like long-term disability if you're one of the unluckies. So yeah, anyway, I totally agree with you. Fluid dynamics is really, really fascinating. Next time, parents, you are in the tub with your kids, or not, you're not in the tub, but next time your little kids are in the tub, you get those little color tablets.
We have those.
Yeah, you put the color tablet, like a green one or blue one on one side and a yellow one on the other, and you just watch what happens as your kid moves, and before you know it, the green happens in the middle because the yellow and the blue have combined, and it's really interesting to watch.
That's rad.
Now, if the space is poorly ventilated, then the amount of airborne bacteria and viruses will accumulate. It's been recently reported that CO2 itself will help some airborne viruses to remain infectious in the air longer.
Now, this is an interesting paper. So this is actually Al Hadrell's paper, and this is what you were talking about earlier, Issara. So this notion is that once the CO2, the carbon dioxide concentration, gets above 800 parts per million, and that is, that's a pretty well ventilated room, right? 800 parts per million is much lower than those numbers we saw associated with poor performance, poor academic performance, and making mistakes.
Let me just sorry to cut off. This is a piece of context that is like really important if for a non-technical person. I didn't know this for a long time. So the average air on the planet is like 400 and something, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like you
depending
hear
on where you are,
sure,
whether you're in a city or a country.
but like really good quality, like just like the best air you can get, like by the ocean, whatever. Or in a place that's not by like a city, like just the ambient air of the planet is like 400. So when you see numbers like 800 and you're like, holy what? Just keep in mind that, just regular air is, I don't have the exact number. It's 400 and something, right? It's like around 420 or something, 410. And so this is twice that, so 800 to be twice that. So it's not like lethal amounts or something. Cause as a non-technical person reading this stuff for the first time, I was like, why are these numbers so insanely high? And then I was like, oh, regular air is like 400. Okay.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is too that historically the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere increases over time. So in Jesus' times, it was much different. It wasn't 400. In certain areas, it's maybe 400. In other areas, it might be, in the 300s-ish. It really depends. But to your point, yeah, you got to know what the outdoor concentration of CO2 is. But generally speaking, if you have about 700 ppm or lower of CO2 in a room, it's considered really well ventilated. 800 still getting up there. But what this says is essentially this paper that Al Hadrell put out is if you have CO2 concentrations that are over 800 parts per million, it actually increases the amount of time that COVID remains viable in the air, SARS-CoV-2 remains viable in the air, because for a variety of like really dorky, sciencey, smart people reasons, the SARS-CoV-2 and the aerosol that carries it don't break down as quickly when the CO2 is higher. If that makes sense.
Allowing them to accumulate even further. The combination of all these factors will increase the likelihood of infection, resulting in illness and an increase in sick days. Collectively, this means that indoor air quality affects students' performance in a number of different ways. Fortunately,
I'd just like to point out real quick, not to interrupt Al, but you see over here where you have this classroom or this room of some sort of this classroom with these 3 overhead fans in here. That's brilliant for diffusing particles and circulating air such that it reaches the so that it reaches the filtration areas a lot faster. And there have been some really interesting papers out on how overhead fans can really help with air quality and making sure that your chances of getting sick are much lower. Same thing with opening the windows here, which Al will talk about in a second.
Indoor air is something that we can control. This raises 2 questions. How? And how do we know the actions we've taken to clean the air have actually worked? Let's deal with this one at a time. So how can we improve indoor air? Well, for that, we have a number of tools in our toolkit that cover a broad range of costs and efficiencies. An easy and effective method is through natural ventilation. By simply opening a window, the particulates, aerosol, and CO2 that cause problems can get physically removed. Now, sometimes opening a window isn't even an option.
Keep in mind, Al is in the UK where they don't have guns well, they have guns, but the guns are not as big a problem as they are here in the US. And so they don't have things like active shooter drills. In the US schools, we have active shooter drills. And in a lot of districts, because they're worried about active shooters, they don't allow you to open the windows, which is a huge issue.
Yeah, there's also they don't have forest fires in the UK too.
True. Yeah, great point.
Many schools have their windows either painted or screwed shut, while others have windows that simply don't open much. This will significantly limit the ability to use natural ventilation. More modern buildings may have heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC systems. HVAC systems are useful as they will automatically ventilate the air. Now, if natural or mechanical ventilation are simply not options, other tools may need to be used. For example, filtration. There are many filtration devices available on the market, where there's a broad range in their effectiveness. Now, if cost is an issue, it's also possible to build your own air filtration unit with some filters and a fan.
So I will point out Corsi-Rosenthal box, amazing. The Corsi-Rosenthal Foundation, our friend Liesel is the interim director over there. Richard Corsi is the Dean of Engineering at UC Davis. Great university here in California, part of the UC system. And a woman by the name of Dr. Kim Prather is on the board of the Corsi-Rosenthal Foundation. At least that's my understanding. And she's out of the Scripps Institute in UC San Diego. And she is an aerosol scientist like Al Hadrell. And some of her science is really supporting this as well. I'll just briefly mention, so HVAC as a whole thing is very expensive to redo a classroom, for example, but making something like this, you can get what they call a CR box or a Corsi-Rosenthal box made for your school for less than the cost of like most commercially available air filters. And one of my pals has come up with an alternate option. Sri Krishna is his name, and he is the founder of SafeBox. He basically takes one of these one of these Lasco box fans, and instead of having 4 filters on the side, he just gets one of these big Lennox filters that's like a 5-inch filter, 20 by 25-inch filter, the kind you put in an HVAC system, and he straps that to back with duct tape and lets it go. And the between the Corsi-Rosenthal box and the Safe box, you can get just phenomenal air quality in your home, in your school, in your office for super cheap. You can build one of these things and outfit an entire room, like a whole school room, for less than $350 for a classroom. You can have at least 5 air changes per hour, which is what California Department of Public Health and the CDC say you should have. So these boxes are super helpful, and you can get much higher clean air delivery rates with some of these boxes than you can with commercially available filters.
Amazing.
I'll provide a link in the description for a video to walk you through exactly how to do that.
And I will link in our description as well.
All right then, so we have all these simple things we can do to lower the amount of indoor air pollution. Let's say one enacts a change. How do we know if what they've done has actually helped? Now, during the pandemic, a lot of tools have become available that are incredibly useful for one to be able to assess their indoor air quality. Specifically, many classrooms were provided with CO2 monitors. While not perfect, CO2 monitors are powerful tools to be able to assess indoor air quality. First off, they can measure how much CO2 is in the room. Now, as mentioned, when the CO2 levels are high, students may begin to lose focus. So letting in some outdoor air when the CO2 level is up can help. CO2 monitors can also be used to measure ventilation. Now, ventilation is measured by the terms air exchanges per hour, or ACH for short, where the term simply means the average number of times the air in a room is replaced per hour. An ACH of 5 or above is deemed to be pretty good, but anything higher will be better. And you can use a CO2 monitor to easily measure the ACH of a room. This is done through simply measuring how fast the CO2 in an empty room lowers over time. I've explained this in a previous video. Here's a link for that. Now, with this simple technique, one can readily see how minor changes, such as opening a window, will have on the ACH. In short, with a simple CO2 monitor and a little time, you can optimize your room's air quality. All right.
And before we move on from that, ACH is a really great way to measure air quality. But something I should also mention is that air changes per hour doesn't consider how many people are in a room. So as an example, if you've got a classroom full of kids, let's say you've got like 25 kids in a room and you've got 5 air changes an hour, the air quality in that room is not going to be as good as the air quality in a room that's the same size that has, say, 7 kids in the room, right? Because you're going to have everyone exhaling, and 7 people exhaling is going to end up with a lot lower CO2 than 25 people exhaling. It's also going to end up with a lot lower CO2, and not only CO2, but infectious aerosols. And likewise, in a room full of kids, if there's a lot of smoke outside and you can't open windows, then you're left with a real big problem in cleaning the air through mechanical HVAC, which often draws from outside the room. So the outdoor air exchange. And so what California Department of Public Health has done and said is they recommend either 5 air changes an hour, which is the same as what the CDC says, or 30 cubic minute of clean indoor air or clean air per person per minute. And so 30 CFM is per person, basically means that you're calculating how many people are in the room and trying to do better than just 5 air changes an hour. But 5 is the simplest way to measure it. But in some rooms, you'll want to have even higher. And 5 ACH in the typical classroom is honestly not going to stop COVID from spreading. You are going to also want to wear a mask in a room like that, but it gives you a little bit more wiggle room in a situation that might not be really well, might have sick people.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't think about the number of people per room. I was just like, as I've been learning about this, I mean, like, oh, air changes per hour, that makes sense. You know, you get the room volume, and then you get like the output of the thing, and you're like, okay, fine. But yeah, like if you're whatever. So the thing that I think about probably a lot, because my son's not in school right now, is you know, I want to have people over. I kind of miss that. And so I'm like, how can I make my house safe, you know, or safe enough for me, like whatever my personal level is, you know? And so you know, because I think for my son too, it's like this is a thing that I don't know, we haven't really talked about it, right? But this is like one of the elephants in the room is like, okay, if you're really worried about your kids getting sick, they get a lot less social contact with other kids, you know, and obviously there are extremes that are unhealthy. You know, I think there was some story in the news a few years ago of like some parents who were clearly mentally ill that like their kid, they didn't let their kids leave the house for like 3 years or something, which was like bonkers.
That was nuts.
Yeah, but like, and you know, it's like stuff like that that gives like people like us maybe like a bad name because people are like, oh, they're crazy. And you're like, dude, those people were mentally ill. Like, I don't know what they were smoking. Those aren't my homies. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, no, we're all on the same page. That's child abuse. Don't do that, you know? So, like, but and this we'll probably have a lot of time to talk about this more is like, so your level and my level where we're like balancing, like our kids need to grow up to have social skills and all this stuff. And like, how can you do that in the safest possible way without, turning into a psycho, and letting your kids just, never leave the house. So,
Right, and you have one kid, I have 3, and
yeah.
so there's, like, a slightly different dynamic there too, right? Like, if you have just one child, they're not gonna be exposed to, like, literally anyone if you don't expose them to anyone, and
Yeah.
so it's
No, totally. So yeah, when you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, I mean, and whether they're in school or not, but I mean, I think just fundamentally the reality is like at a minimum, the thing we all have in common is we all live in neighborhoods and we all have neighbors with who have kids, and we want our kids to be friends with neighbor kids. I think that's like one of the most human things that it probably has ever existed, right? And so, just thinking about that. And so that's why the air changes per hour, yes, for the classroom is 100%, but also just like for me personally, like right now, I'm like, okay, like I need to really figure this out a little bit better. How many people do I want to have over for the room size and stuff like that? So, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's where it is helpful if we all are on the same page about community care, that, if we had better tests here in the US. I mean, the fact that I spend $12 for a Binax test, it's not really going to tell me whether someone's actually sick unless they test like 48 hours, 3 times in 48 hours, or whatever the FDA wants you to do. I mean, that's kind of nuts to me.
Oh,
Versus if I
completely.
just get one of these plus lives from Germany and it's got like a 98, I think it's 98 or some very high percentage chance of efficacy. Feel a whole lot better about that than like what we're offered here in the States. So again, like public health, I appreciate that like people are over this, but like if we just talk about community care a little bit more in the context of clean air and testing regularly and, wearing a mask when you're in a crowded place, like this makes all of these layers make the infection rates go down.
So when it comes to improving indoor air quality, there are some short-term solutions that anyone can enact. So things like ventilation, using portable filters, using different cleaning products to limit the VOCs.
Oh, and this is the one I was talking about earlier, right? Like these different cleaning products limit VOCs. I mean, like if you use harsh cleaning chemicals, that can totally screw up a kid who has, for example, eczema, right? Because certain detergents in some of these products will then re-aerosolize and cause all sorts of like lung issues for kids with asthma, skin issues for kids with uh, eczema. Yeah, it's a hot mess.
That's so rad.
And then
Love
you're
that.
adding all that to like the other nasties that sit in this room, like mold and whatever else is in the air.
Keeping the humidity between 30 and 50% to stop mold growth.
Oh, that's killer right there. The humidity is also something to keep an eye on.
Assess the indoor air quality with a CO2 monitor. You can also limit the amount of pollution being generated. So doing things like simply putting out candles or not using candles.
Did you have any idea that candles were like so toxic for the air until this whole thing? I still like candles. I like candles,
I
but
love candles. Sorry. I'm always going to love candles.
me
Not going
too.
to
But like
like
you have to know
apologize.
but you have to kind of know it does have like open a window while you've got the candle lit, right?
Yeah.
Did you know also little thing I learned on Twitter the other day or X is that if you light a candle and then you put it out, those little trails that come off of that, you can like put a lighter on that and it'll relight the candle.
I saw
So
that. I still
yeah,
don't believe it. I still feel like it's like Gen AI. I have to do it. I'm kind of skeptical. I saw it. It looked cool, but I'm like, dude, really?
I've done it before. So
Serious?
it's not, I mean, like if it depends on how far you're going. If
Yeah.
your wick is here and you go right here, it can do it. It's pretty neat. I mean, I don't know how far, like this far, I don't know, but
That's super cool.
All of these can be done right now. Now, over a longer period of time, bigger changes can be made. So things like improving air quality standards, Schools could get individual ventilation audits. Some could be retrofitted with bespoke solutions.
And right here, this BB 101 guidance for schools was written pre-pandemic. This is a UK standard. Same thing in the US, right? Our standards in the US were all written before COVID. And the CDPH guidance that comes out of the California Department of Public Health is probably the most progressive indoor air quality guidance out there. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And I'd love to see that enacted into law, because right now the schools don't have to do any of this. It's like totally optional for them. They can completely ignore it. They don't have to accept donations from parents of portable air purifiers. They can claim equity all they want. Like, we can't accept your filter because then it wouldn't be fair to all the other kids in the other classrooms. There's this whole like narrative which is just so messed up. But bottom line is we all have a role to play here.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting it passed into law, I think, is the name of the game, right? Like that's like we don't care if you want to or not, or how you feel or what you think. You have to comply with this,
My kid's
is the
teacher
goal.
doesn't care about your feelings, honestly. Like,
Or your philosophy that it's good for kids to get sick, or that it's good enough. Like, I mean, dude, I've talked to enough parents and teachers where I've heard literally every possible excuse and confabulation and justification for doing absolutely nothing, and at a certain point you're like, okay, well, let's do laws, because you can't really pick and choose those, buddy.
yeah. Well, and there is a law in the House right now that's being reviewed in the House right now, or I guess maybe it's not completely there yet, but it's an Indoor Air Quality in Schools Act. And yet the draft I saw, which I mentioned in the first podcast that we did, draft I saw, it doesn't talk about airborne disease. It's really more about like CO2 concentrations and radon and other things like that. But like at the end of the day, like if someone's got really bad COVID or measles or whatever the next thing is circulating in their classroom, like we really need to be thinking about that too.
Yeah, and I mean, just 1 second. I know we're going long, but like, you know, uh, we are always looking at orgs to partnership and who are doing cool stuff. So I found this like Clean Air California nonprofit, right? And they looked pretty old school. Like they've been doing
Oh
it a
yeah.
long time. They had connections. They had like a pretty serious board of directors. And I called them up and I got to talk to one of their top people, COO or somebody. I don't recall their name, but I was like, hey, like your name is Clean Air, California. Like, how much attention? Because I went on their site, I did my homework and I was just like looking for anything that had to do with pathogens, right? It was all like environmental, like pollutants and stuff like that, which is great. I'm glad they're focused on that. But also I was like, yo, like we're like five years in, bro. So and he was like, yeah, we don't care, basically. And I was like, wow.
Well, you
So
see what's happening even in San Diego, though, right now. Dr. Kim Prather, who I talked about a little earlier, she's got this amazing lab down there at Scripps, and she has been posting some just horrifically scary stuff about air quality down in Imperial Beach, which is in San Diego County. It's like just south of San Diego, gorgeous place, probably the cheapest place you could live in San Diego. So like, but right on the beach, right? So it sounds really idyllic, really amazing, right next to Mexico. Well, turns out the Tijuana River has been dumping all sorts of nasty stuff into the water there. And so she has been fighting, like, to try to clean up the air because she's doing like outdoor air measurements. And like, she's like, at the levels that she's seeing of this crazy, like, river pollution that's happening down there, like, people are breathing stuff that is going to mess them up, basically. And
wow.
all these organizations that claim to care about air quality in California, I mean, I'm not seeing a whole lot of action. I'm seeing a whole lot of screaming from Kim Prather, but this is exactly what we saw with COVID too, right? She was the one who brought the Corsi-Rosenthal box to the White House. She's the one who's been screaming about we need to like clean the air in schools. And now she's screaming about like, well, not even indoor air at this point down there. It's like outdoor air is so messed up in this neighborhood, and people are being exposed to like God only knows what, and it seems to not be like talked about. So
Wild.
let that set in for just a second in the most progressive state in the entire nation, possibly the most progressive place in the whole world.
I don't know. It's a mixed bag. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I don't want to be in that school district either. I mean, so your
Yeah.
outdoor air is bad, your indoor air is bad, but the indoor air's got all the outdoor air and all the indoor air. It's like a hot mess, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, but I assume. Anyhow.
Now, finally, or even there's long-term solutions that we can go for. So things like fitting improved air filtration systems, or even building new schools to upgrade ventilation standards. Clearly, there are a range of solutions that cover a range of costs. Numerous case studies have shown that by improving indoor air quality, this will directly improve how well students will perform in school.
And this right here, if you care about nothing else, should be setting off alarm bells for all parents, right? Air quality is directly linked to school performance. It's directly linked to attendance in school and your ability to be able to think clearly, form arguments, and become a fully formed adult.
Fact of the matter is this: indoor air quality is a choice, and it's one that we make every single day. Moreover, it's one that we have a lot of control over, and we can always do better. If you think this is important and would like some additional information, check out Clean Air for Kids UK, link in the description.
Great organization. That Ruth Brooker, she's great.
Yeah, she's killing it. She's doing a really good job.
So I want to talk about a couple of things that are also going to make you care a little bit about air quality. First of all, I attended just a rockin' panel discussion this morning from the World Health Network. WHN, the World Health Network, has a bunch of great events. Look them up. I should post the link. I'll put a link in the description of this so you can find them. But they had this great clean air discussion, panel discussion this morning with Bill Blantheth, who is the ASHRAE guy. Like, he knows everything there is to know about American Society for Heating and Air Conditioning. He is the guy who you want to talk to if you want to hear about ASHRAE 241, which is the standard which is being pushed right now to stop the transmission of aerosols and pollutants in the air. So like ASHRAE 241 is what I personally would love to see a whole lot more of that style air quality stuff in schools. Jim Rosenthal, one of the co-founders of the Corsi-Rosenthal Foundation, the CR box guy, the brother from another mother to Dr. Corsi, the Dean of Engineering I mentioned earlier at UC Davis, who's the other half of the CR Foundation. Dr. Joe Vipond, who's, I might have screwed up his last name, I'm really sorry, Vipond, not sure, but on Twitter has been just a phenomenal resource for great information about air quality and health. And Aaron Collins, the mask nerd, who is, as you can see, wearing a respirator right here. This is the man who was keeping these most complex spreadsheets you've ever seen for the first, I don't know, 5 years of the pandemic. And he might still be doing it, but I think now he's working on some other cool things around air quality and trying to make basically a cheaper, easier version of the port account. So these four guys were all chatting with a bunch of WHN folks, and it was a phenomenally interesting conversation. I don't know if they'll post that, but I really love seeing these kinds of events. It was great.
I didn't attend. I regret not attending. I wish I was there. Next time, send me a text or something. It's not your job to babysit me, but like,
I came late because I was parenting.
But like, I will say, just to plug the WHN, if I could point to one organization that is like my favorite, I would say it's these guys, like hands down, because sort of they were like my first like entrance like into like my COVID journey, whatever. It's because I was reading Nassim Talib's work like over and over and over again, like a crazy person. And then I came across Yanir Baryam, who does a lot of work with Nassim Talib. They're like buddies, and during COVID, they would do these.
Wait. During COVID is now, just to be clear.
Yeah. Sorry. What I meant was like when shit was scary,
it's so scary.
But I mean, like,
during the emergency phase.
During the emergency phase, yeah. Thank you. And they would do these Zooms together where they would just sort of like just talk about shit. And it was like two of the craziest like complexity researcher math nerd people ever who were clearly got along really well together. And it was just so fun to watch those. So I was watching those, and then that led me to WHN and their work there. And then I think what was really significant that really kind of was the thing that put them on the map for me when it came to COVID was they put out a set of protocols that were used for the Davos conference, which was the first Davos conference when COVID started. And so the WHN, you can go on their site, you can look for it. We may post a link or whatever. But they were like, look, if you want multiple people in a room and not have them get sick, this is what you got to do. Like, no
make it
cutting.
Davos safe.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is like if you don't want to cut any corners, if you're protecting billionaires and it's your job to protect billionaires, this is the personal shit they do. Not what they tell you to do, but what they do. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. What are they doing?" And it just listed everything, and then they just did that for Davos. They're like, "Oh, cool. We'll just do that then. We don't need to overthink that." So these guys are just really cool, and they've been managing pandemics for like decades. So it's like they study like complexity, which if you don't care, fine, but I think it's cool. But they also do like on the ground managing active pandemics in like all over the world. And they're good at it. Like it's what they do, you
Yeah,
know.
there's
So,
a whole underground scene of these people,
yeah.
of which some of the folks in the WHN are some that have been sort of the people that are informing governments about what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get some of those people on this podcast. Like
They're
super
amazing.
interesting
I'm
folks.
like I'm gonna be like all weird and like awkward and shit. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be saying stupid stuff because I'm gonna be all starstruck, which is super nerdy and embarrassing that I just said that out loud. But okay, here we go. So okay, yeah. So it was great.
Sorry, you have a clean air parenting podcast. It's already kind of a given.
Ugh.
You're a little bit of a nerd, so I think we're okay. You're amongst friends. Anyone watching this, shout out to the other nerds. Um, no, but I mean, to your point, these are just some of these people are just brilliant, right? Like, and these are the people who can get us out of this situation long term, if only the politicians will react to the science, right?
Yeah.
So clean air panel discussion today was great. Let's hope that they put that one up on the WHN. Next, I'd like to point out a couple of things. So October 2nd, 2024, Stanford Medicine, Stanford Children's Health, put out a really interesting article on wildfires and the health risks and how to keep children safe. So in the United States right now, in Canada right now, in many parts of the world right now, even if you don't think climate change is an issue, it's an issue. And wildfires are increasing in their occurrence and their unpredictability, right? So they're happening all over. And what is happening here is that wildfire smoke is estimated to be 10 times more harmful to children than regular air pollution. Knock on wood right here. In California, we've had a really, really great wildfire season. By now, we would have had usually like at least a few choke on the smoke days, quite bad, but we haven't had that so far. Fire season goes for us until end of October, November timeframe now, and it usually starts somewhere around like May, June. And we've really been lucky in most parts of California. But again, last year or earlier this year, I think it was February, the LA fires, these things can happen anytime. If you were in a uh, high wind situation and you were in a warm place, and it only takes like one match or one unfortunate, incident to cause a fire, and that wildfire smoke is dangerous. So, a few things that Stanford says is you should check your air quality regularly, maintain that air quality, and use protective masks. That is N95, KN95, P100, FFP3 if you're in Europe, or other parts of the world, and China has some standards as well. But this is really a lot of the stuff that they have posted at Stanford Children's is would just make your skin crawl, especially if you have a child who's neurodiverse or who has asthma or who has long COVID. Like this stuff, just wildfire smoke makes it worse. And when they're at school, you want to make sure that air is clean. So that's another reason. The other thing I would like to point out, this is some news. Did you see this one today, Issara?
So
Know this
diabolical,
guy?
dude.
Do you know this guy? Dr. Pat Soon-Shong?
Yeah. I've come across him. He's like, well, he's in like the media and stuff. He does like huge media appearances and
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the guy who owns the LA Times, but he's also a billionaire. And his story of owning the LA Times and how he got to that's really interesting. Uh, look into this guy. Fascinating individual. The way he made his money, though, as I understand it, was cancer drugs. And he's a cancer doctor. And he studied a lot of this. And he is the executive chairman of a company called Immunity Bio, which, I mean, there's just so many things I could talk about with regard to this guy and what he's been up to the last 5 years. One of the recent earnings calls for Immunity Bio was really fascinating. That is where I heard scientists for the first time legitimately talking about concerns about potentially SARS-CoV-2, that's COVID, potentially being oncogenic.
Are you serious?
Oncogenic meaning causing cancer.
Jesus
Now,
Christ.
nothing, he was basically saying, yeah, like this has been a worry of his as a cancer doctor. Um, and I mean, obviously, we're still working through a lot of that research, but and nothing's been definitively proven. But there's been articles in like major scientific peer-reviewed journals just in the last several months talking about how COVID is known to reactivate certain types of cancer. So that's terrifying. But this one was really just got me a little bit creeped out. So Dr. Pat says studies now confirming that SARS-CoV-2 suppresses the immune system, resulting in increased HPV positive throat cancer. Anktiva trial ongoing to reverse this. NK cells matter. So what Anktiva is that's the Immunity Bio product that is supposed to do something with NK cells. That's your natural killer cells. Those are the cells that, as I understand it, are often suppressed during SARS-CoV-2 and other types of illnesses, really nasty illnesses that basically mean that with COVID, uh, if your NK cells aren't functioning properly, the hypothesis is that that could cause you not to be able to fight off certain types of cancer that you previously could have. So if we look at this, this PubMed article, SARS-CoV-2 infection heightens the risk of developing HPV-related carcinoma in situ and cancer. This is the key part for me. So they looked at women ages 18 to 90 years old with no previous history of HPV-related cancers before their COVID infection in 2020 and no HPV vaccine before 2020. So they never had the vaccine, the HPV vaccine, nor COVID. And then they utilized these hazard regression analyses to estimate the hazard ratios and make sure that they were like really confident of this. The study itself was 4,872,295 patients. So that's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And 1,281,997 of them were in the infection group, the SARS-CoV-2 infection group. And another 3.5 million were in the non-infection group. And after they did all the score matching and they basically had two groups comprised of about 1,200,000, 1,300,000, almost 1,300,000 patients each. And over this 3-year follow-up period, the people who had COVID had significantly higher rates of developing these HPV-related cancers compared to those without. So they found a 67% increase in cervical cancer, 131% increase in vaginal cancer, 98% in vulvar cancer, which is cancer of the vulva, and 92% in anal cancer, and 78% in oropharyngeal cancer. Similar trends were observed for carcinoma in situ, with increased risks of 34% for cervical, 61% for vaginal, 74% for vulvar, 96% for anal, and 78% for oropharyngeal carcinoma in situ. So this is wild. This is scary, scary stuff. If you're a parent who has kids in school who are getting infected with COVID multiple times a year, this should just make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And if nothing gets you to like care about this issue, the thought of your kid, your daughter, even your son, we don't know about the male side of HPV, but in this study, but wow.
Dude, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't need more shit to be terrified about. Um, I mean, I don't know. The numbers speak for itself. It's really shocking. It's really horrifying. I have a friend, a close friend, his daughter, she rang the bell that, so when you go through cancer therapy, I
Yeah,
didn't know this,
you ring the
for
bell on your way
a
out.
long time. There's a bell that you ring on on the way out. So they've been dealing with this for like 3 years, and she rang the bell. It was like last month or so. He like texted me the video. I was just like, oh my god, like, dude. But what these guys had to go through, is like, it's so like, if this is not your world, and it wasn't my world. I'm sure it's, if you're like listening to this or watching this, it's like, odds are it's not your world, but like, it's so bad, dude. It's really, and the people who get through it are just like, they're so tough.
Yeah, and then these amazing like people who have just fought like hell to get through this stuff. And then they ring the bell and then they like walk through the tunnel. And like the number of videos I've seen where these people are unmasked because no one's told them, like, hey, you should probably be wearing FFP3 and 95 when you're, trying to prevent getting COVID in a hospital. And then the tunnel of people that they go through, all these like clinicians and doctors and whatever, not wearing masks or wearing like really floppy masks and aren't doing much for COVID. It's just, I mean, can I just say right now, in addition to schools, I really think like schools having decent air quality, I really think that hospitals should be the place where we have great air quality. And if you're interacting with patients, you should be wearing a respirator. And like,
I mean,
pretty much
we
anyone should be
we
wearing a respirator.
we may not be able to agree on much as a country, but I would like to think we could all agree and come together that when you go to the hospital for something small, you shouldn't get sick and die while in the hospital, or that they should, if that does happen, that they've taken every opportunity known to science to try and make it not happen.
Yep.
I don't know. I think there are things that bring us together. I think that's one of them.
Let's hope we agree with that. Here's the other one that really got me was this account on X is great. A lot of great science coming out of this account. I'd love to know who they actually are.
I haven't seen this
Man.
one. Okay, I'll
Oh yeah,
follow.
the Transcendent Man has some great stuff, and
I
I
like the name.
imagine I mean, just based upon what they are talking about, they know what they're talking about. They got the pipeline to the news. So a lot of these people on Twitter who go by these anonymous names are actually pretty legit people who just
Yeah.
can't, for professional reasons, talk about certain things under their own name. Some of the joys of being a tech person who doesn't work in medicine, so we can talk about this stuff. So
Totally.
anyway, 16 Swedish children ages 9 to 18 described how long COVID reshaped their lives. Fatigue ruled their day, friendships faded, and the school became a struggle. Yet with time and support, many found acceptance and hope that life could improve. I mean, his paper is just a banger. It's like, don't read it if you don't want to be depressed, but these kids, just the strength of these kids. The study addresses the lack of knowledge of COVID in the society, how it affects kids, and their struggle to find a new path in life, and shows that with knowledge and support, symptoms and burden of COVID, long COVID, can decrease or even pass. I mean, for some,
For some,
I will
yeah.
say, like, not for, I mean, the stuff I saw recently was like maybe 7 to 10% of people like recover from really devastating long COVID, but it's, I mean, the really devastating ones, it's like bad. Anyway, it's important that people around these children, including healthcare, school, and family, use this knowledge to promote health and avoid educational, health, and social problems at a vulnerable time in life. Well, I think that, frankly, the vulnerable time in life is going to be for all of us if we don't watch it.
Totally.
So clean the air, folks. Next up, yeah, well, I think that's pretty much all I had to cover on why you should care. If you don't care at this point, you won't be still watching, I can imagine. But yeah, any other thoughts, Issara, on why people should care about clean air, especially in schools?
Yeah, one of the things that I think about a lot is sort of this idea of this like cone of life, that you have from like the present moment, whatever age you are watching this, and what your sort of like age adjusted life expectancy is, and if you're whatever, my age, the average, whatever is, 70s, 80s or something. But if you're a kid, you have so much life ahead of you. And if you are starting out of the gate, and we know this from America being America and doing American things for decades. And, we know it from Flint, Michigan, of like, hey, this is what happens when you pollute kids' drinking water and you stunt, their cognitive development. And this is how that cascades through their lives and through the economy and like everything. Like, there's so many reasons why you should care. One of those is just, this is a person's life, like it may not even be your son or daughter, or it could be a friend or something, but it's like, I think just we should care about people, I
Care about each
think
other.
we should care about each other a little bit more. I think there's like just human reasons, like you can go down the list. There's ethical reasons, there's just pragmatic reasons, like what this is going to do to the economy over time. Sure, that's fine too. But like, I think at the end of the day, like, just you should, like, at a human level, they're not even my kids, and I'll go look at classrooms and I'll be like, we could just do better, like let's do it. Let's do it. We're California. We innovate, we solve problems. Like you know, let's just do better. Like, I care about these people, these kids. And I don't know. I think we all do. I think, normalizing, what you and I are trying to do, which is just normalize these conversations that a lot of people are maybe having in their own minds. They're just sort of isolated. They don't have the social group or the resources or the social connections to just like talk about this stuff. I know, like with my friends, there's just nobody's interested, right? Like I've brought it up, and I can read people pretty well. They just don't want to deal with it, and I'm like, okay, like at a certain point, like, am I, choosing, like, what do I want to choose, right? And I've always been the person that's like, I'm going to maintain my friendships and my relationships, and I'm not going to lose people over their political views, honestly. And that's a whole thing that will probably get me canceled on this podcast on episode whatever we are. But I don't do it. One of my favorite people in the whole world was my aunt. She got Facebooked, and she started voting for Trump and all this stuff, and just going off on QAnon and spending, like, just donating crazy amounts of money to that. It was a
Oh,
thing. It was a
wow.
thing in our family. It was a real thing.
Wow.
And people in our family had a hard time with that. And I was like, you know what? She's an amazing person. Like, yeah, the stuff that comes out of her mouth is just like nonsense, but like, I love this person. I want to spend time with her. I'm not going to like blow up this relationship just because she's into some weird stuff. Like, I don't know. I can't do it. And I'm different. I'm not telling people what to do with their lives. This is not advice, but I just like, I think we all just need to really figure out who we are, and I've kind of just made my peace with that. Is like, I'm okay with people having views that aren't mine. I think the thing that we can all come together on is our kids, and just doing not just the bare minimum, not just like coming up with excuses to just not do anything, but like, why can't we just all come together and have them get the best, or like the best for what we can do right now or something. And so that's just kind of, I think, to some degree, part of my why I'm doing this with you is, um, yeah, I don't know.
I know those people too, and really nice people, really sweet, amazing people, in all other aspects that got brought down some weird rabbit hole that all logic and science says is not real. And yet, I think about how the people who I'm friends with who don't care about clean air and don't care about COVID must be looking at me and thinking the same thing. And honestly, I mean, I know I'm right because I've researched the heck out of this, and as a management consultant who likes to have all my I's dotted and T's crossed, like, I would really like to find my way out of this. If I wasn't 100% convinced this was the right thing to be doing, I wouldn't be doing it because I don't love wearing a mask. I don't love being careful about where I go. I would like my 2019 life back, but by the same token, I'm thinking about three young people who I love more than anything, and I want the best for them, and I want them to have an adulthood that is as amazing as their childhood, even better. And I am concerned, really concerned. So that being said, yeah, let's try to put away partisan viewpoints, and let's focus on what's here and what matters. It's like, let's keep these kids healthy and safe.
The way I say it is we can all go back to fighting about shit once we solve this problem. Let's come together. Let's solve this problem. When we get the clean air, we can go back to fighting and
But you don't,
culture wars. It's fine. We can do that. We're America. We like to do that. We can do that. Let's come together and then we can all break up again, but let's just get this done.
I do have a fundamental issue though. Like when I see someone walk out of the bathroom who hasn't washed their hands, I kind of go, oh, gross. Like that wigs me out, right? And I'm starting to get to that point with people who don't care about like air hygiene as well. It's like, really? Like you go into a doctor's office for something and you happen to have I have my CO2 monitor when I go in there, because I know now that the doctor's offices are some of the worst offenders. And you'll be in there and you'll see like how do they put up with this, and how are they not wearing a mask in this? This is just gross. Now, I feel like I'm being judgy, but I mean, at this point, like I feel like I have the right to be judgy about this sort of thing. But I'm just saying, like, no one sits there in 2025 and like gets angry at people who wash their hands after they go potty. In fact, quite the opposite. I think most people are like, yes, please wash your hands frequently. So the fact that I'm wearing a mask, the fact that I think cleaning the air is a good thing, like I hope we can all agree hygiene's hygiene. Air is just as important, in fact, not just as important, more important than surface hygiene, because COVID infections and other things transmit a whole lot more than we ever had any idea about through the air.
I think one of the things that's nice about getting older is like you start to give less and less Fs. I'm getting incrementally day by day closer to just calling people out when I see dudes leaving the bathroom not washing their hands. I'm just getting closer and closer and closer, not in like an aggressive way, but just like hands, sinks over there.
Have you seen that woman? This is totally off topic, but it totally makes me laugh. Have you seen that woman on Instagram who's like the menopausal we don't care club?
Oh, oh my God, it's my favorite thing.
Called.
Oh my God, we don't care, dude. I
And
don't
then
know
she
how
sits there with
okay.
like a list and she's like,
No. So you don't understand.
Don't care.
You don't understand. I hate Instagram. I hate it. It's so boring. Like I'm never on it or anything. And I stumbled across this lady and I'm like, this is like the best thing I've seen in forever. I sent it to my wife. I was just like, dude, I was just crying, dude. Every single time. The way her demeanor, she's like so good, man.
Yeah, next podcast I want to write one of those up. Be like this, Issara. We don't care if you have something that makes it hard for you to mask.
Right. No, right? Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We don't care.
We don't care,
I care about clean air. That's what I care about. Care about not having your cooties all over me. Keeping my kids healthy and safe. Anyway, I have a couple more things I just want to talk about real quick, if you're cool with this.
Let's do it.
To summarize everything here, why you should care, I'd like to point out to Vitalik Buterin. Do you know who Vitalik Buterin is, Sarah?
No.
So Vitalik Buterin, you won't get anything from this this Twitter bio. He's the guy who is behind one of the leading cryptocurrencies in the world, Ethereum. He's also really, really into clean air. And he's into preventing infections, and he's into masking. This guy is on it. And if someone like this, who is a cryptocurrency nerd, in the nicest possible way, I use the term nerd because like I am a nerd, and so like this guy is smarter than all, like super, super smart. I'm never going to be as smart as this guy. He's brilliant. If this guy is talking about how you should protect yourself and talking about his stack being a CO2 monitor and an AQ air quality index meter and nasal barrier spray and a mask, which really he means this is one of these great Zimmy. I think it's a Zimmy mask. It's a FFP3/N95 quality from China. and this nasal irrigator thing that you can basically create 3D print to get all the gungas out of your nose after you get home from a big event, even after you've worn your mask. If this guy's talking about this stuff, we are not wrong. We are just early, Issara.
Well, in investing, it's the same thing. So,
Oh, 100% it's the same. So VCs, hope you're listening up.
one of
And
my
then it's,
favorite movies is The Big Short. I've seen that movie, I don't know, 20, 30 times. It gets better every single time. Yeah, if you if you're early, you're still wrong. Um, but yeah, in this case, we're not wrong,
no,
it's
no,
just
and he has put his money where his mouth is. So this Balvi.io that I've just switched over to is his scientific investment and direct gifting fund to basically try to have high impact COVID projects. So he's funded a bunch of cool stuff. He's funded some stuff for Dr. Kim Prather. He's funded some stuff for Nukit, which does the UV lights, some of the other cool things like Cyber Night Market. I can't remember what are some of these other. Oh, Mask Nerd. He's funded some of Mask Nerd stuff and his new Open Arrows project, which just launched, I think, recently. I don't know if it was a soft launch or a real launch. That port account alternative that I was talking about. So Vitalik, this dude's on it. He's bright. He's like putting his money where his mouth is, and yeah, like
so
you're not wrong. You're early.
here's the thing that I really want to know is what do his people think about him? Like is he good at getting all of his people like in alignment with like, hey, this is a thing, or do they all think he's crazy, right? This is sort of my fundamental question is it a situation where like you're never a prophet in your like hometown, right? Where in the case of like Violet Affleck, I'm still waiting to hear from her parents who have between them like 50 million people on their platforms that could do a hell of a lot of good with just one post
Oh,
on
Ben said
Instagram.
something. I think he said something in the last couple of days. He just said like I'm so proud of my kids and like like Violet's like her mom and just so could not be more proud or something like that. And
Awesome.
parenting's a great joy
Okay.
of my life.
Okay.
So we're all
Took him a
we're all
while.
aligned here.
Took him a while.
I know.
Uh,
I think he said stuff, but maybe not like
I was
he
looking.
wants to let
I
her
didn't
be
find
her
anything.
and live her life.
But like I didn't see any support. Whereas with like like Greta's parents, they're in support. They're like, look, yes, this is a serious climate change is real. It's a problem. If our daughter wants to do this, we support that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm curious with people like I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Who
Alec Buterin.
Yeah, like I'm just really curious about like what his friends, his peer group thinks about all this, because those are people between not just him, but his influence and his reach and his group. That's a lot of people with a lot of influence.
I think people are looking at Vitalik Buterin and saying this guy is like freaking brilliant. But Vitalik, come on our podcast. I'd love to talk with you about like all your stuff. And like what kind of I don't think anyone looks at him and goes like, "Oh, he's wearing a mask. Something must be wrong with him." Like they're looking at him and thinking, "I want to be like that guy."
Well,
Right?
I sort of, I also take the other side too, that really successful people are often like, they're just sort of like characters because you kind of have to be, to be really have to go against the grain, and you kind of have strong personality types, and so people sort of tolerate a level of eccentricity that maybe they
Welcome
don't
to tech, right?
right. Well, but it's true of like once you break through like a very high echelon, there's a lot of strange people up there
Oh yeah.
who are very high functioning, but also have sort of like a lot of like eccentricities where you kind of have to be like, okay, we're just going to focus on the thing at hand and just sort of ignore this other weird thing. And so that's kind of what I mean is like with this guy, like, is he converting people around him to this cause, or is it just a thing that they just sort of tolerate that, like, yeah, he just wears masks everywhere and does all this stuff, but he's hyper successful. So we're just not going to really, it's like the elephant in the room, whatever.
Yeah, hard to know. I'd like to talk to him and figure it out. But I mean, I know he's kind of I think there's in this world, right? Like the people that really care about indoor air quality right now are slightly neurospicy. A lot of us. Um
I'm
is
stealing that.
is at least it's
Neurospicy.
yeah, a little bit I've
No,
never
no, no.
I've
I,
always thought of myself as neurotypical, right?
yeah.
But then I go down these rabbit holes like I'm early on tech. Like I remember just a little side story talking to the CEO of one of my clients back in 2005 and telling him it's before the iPhone came out, telling him was it 2005 or 2006. I said, "We got to get movies onto these phones." And the general consensus back to me as a young 20-something-year-old person was, no one's ever going to watch movies on their phone, kid. So
God.
I appreciate that, you know, there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions in this world, and having a different opinion about things isn't always an accurate opinion, and going against the tide is a little hard sometimes. But I wouldn't bet against Vitalik. Um, and yeah, maybe he's not got his whole group of homies all masked up and breathing the clean air, but I'm telling you, that guy's not wrong. He's early.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah, thanks for pulling all those resources together. That was really really interesting going through all that with you.
Yeah, I've got one more that I want to show you. So some great news coming out of California, at least for our respective counties. That this account's also really awesome. Sci-Fi 10. This person knows things, knows a lot of things. Love to get them on the podcast as well. But basically, they report all this cool news, interesting stuff. Keep an eye on them. Starting November 1st, several counties, including Contra Costa County, Santa Clara County, Sonoma County, Napa, San Mateo, and Santa Cruz counties, these are all around the Bay Area, will again require healthcare workers and in some cases patients and visitors to wear masks in patient care areas through the winter and early spring. This is something that CDPH, California Department of Public Health, has had as sort of a new thing. I find it fascinating that this is a new thing because, like, really, COVID is not a seasonal virus. I mean, as proven by this last wave we've just been through. We should be masking all the time in healthcare, but I'm happy. I'm happy that we're going to be doing that again. Makes the winter a little less gross.
You know me, I'm happy, but like, come on, California, give all these people N95s. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, it's just going to be a bunch of people in shitty masks, cloth masks. Like we could just spend a little bit of money and we'd get like 1,000 ROI on just like handing these out for free at clinics, so the medical staff can wear them, give them options, give them, so they can do all the fit tests. Like, just do it, people. Like, why do you gotta like just why do we have to drag you kicking and screaming just to do the thing? I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I'm happier than them not doing it for sure. But I'm like, dude, guys, can we just have critical medical infrastructure? Like, please, we can still let the hedge funds and the private equity strip the country for parts. They can still do that. Just give us a couple crumbs once in a while. This would be a nice little crumb for us to have, is just some medical infrastructure. You can just keep just destroying everything and making water privatized. Like, just go, you can do it. I'm not saying don't do that. Just give us a couple little crumbs.
This is the thing I don't understand, Issara. And look, the math just doesn't math on a lot of this stuff for me, but like, it is so cheap to clean the air, and it's so cheap. These masks can be so cheap. Like like right now on Amazon, you can get, I know you have opinions about this, Woot, which is owned by Amazon. You can get like what appear to be real N95s from 3M for like a whole 440 of these things for $29. That is because we think, when I say we, I mean, from what I've read on the internet and listened to, a lot of like the government bought all these N95 masks and then decided they weren't important anymore, offloaded them, and now they've ended up by third-party sellers selling these things, or in this case, Woot, right? So, uh, uh, one of the big mask testing guys, Gerald Hughes, who's on Twitter and YouTube, he basically did a test on these, and turns out they look pretty legit.
They look legit. We had a bet. So me and him had a personal bet. It was like a $5 bet, and I would donate to the charity of his choice. I was betting they were fake. He was betting they were real. He created a whole YouTube video, and I'm convinced. So if you're watching this, buddy, loved your video. Still need to get the name of the nonprofit to donate the $5. With interest now, it's probably like $6. It's been a couple months.
Wow, as far as just gonna put forward the $6, man. Like, that's just
I was gonna make it interesting, but I didn't want to like freak him out. But I would personally never buy 3M Warriors. This is not advice. This is what I do. I will walk into the store and buy a box from Home Depot because like you can just buy it and it's 100% real. I get that not everybody can do that. And that sucks. And we should not be forced to be in a situation where some people just can't do that, you know? I don't know.
Meanwhile, I'm wearing my 3M Aura in all public places,
It's my
and
favorite.
I've gotten it
I
from
love
you.
those dudes.
And here's the thing, I looked at those very carefully. I am a detail-oriented person. I've looked at those so carefully. I smelled the smells. Every mask has its own smell. These ones are the ones I got at least are legit. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, point taken. So yeah, let's move on to my last thing that I wanted to talk about here, which is uber important, and that is the UK is starting to get a little bit loud. I like it. Around this clean air thing, there's lots of cool stuff going on. There was a podcast that came out this week from the UK on clean air, which I love to see. It's listed in our Twitter/X feed now. And this amazing piece of news: updated guidance from the joint unions, good ventilation in schools and colleges, and how to achieve it. There is a document, folks. In the UK, they're publishing documents on the importance of good ventilation in schools and colleges.
Hell yeah.
Amen.
Is this like, do you know what kind of teeth this has? Is just like a, hey guys, you should think about maybe possibly
I
potentially
think
doing
it's a hey
that?
guys. I think it's a
Yeah,
hey guys
it's
thing.
a
I
hey
think
guys.
it's a hey guys, I think. But it's a guide for union reps, right? The UK is
Mm,
heavy into the unions and health and safety in the unions.
yeah.
Industrial relations, having have my degree in industrial relations from a top UK university.
Look at you.
So yeah, well, I can tell you, they don't mess around. So when the unions start getting on this stuff, it's really good. And I saw earlier this week a school union, like a large school union in the UK, talking about air quality. So I think I mean, I don't want to be too overly optimistic here, but I think it's moving. The Titanic is starting to turn.
Yeah. The leverage in the system with huge leverage is unions, like 100%. And the fact that they're talking about this is a huge deal because unions have scale, they are hyper organized, they can shut things down, they can make demands. Like it's I'm very excited to see it. It like took me a second to catch up to this. Yeah, this is really really cool. Like I know like you and I have looked here in California for places like nurses unions, teachers unions, and they're like zero zero mention of COVID, you know,
Well, one of the
on their
nurses unions,
websites.
to be fair, one of the nurses unions is on it, but just one. And
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but here, like in like California, like I was literally going through their websites and I sent you the link to the page where it was like their COVID page, and it literally said, we have stopped maintaining this page. Go here. And you go to that page and you search for the word COVID, and there's zero instances of the word COVID. In 2025, it was either the teachers union or the nurses union. I don't know, one of
Oh,
them.
that
And
was the teachers union.
I was
That was
like, boom, people. Like, what are you smoking? Where can I get some? Because you are some happy people, and I want that happiness myself.
one of
So,
these days, Issara, you're gonna have to tell everyone the story about that time you sat in on a California teachers podcast.
my God.
Our California Department of Education and associated bodies are viewing the mental health crisis.
You're giving me an opportunity to use one of my favorite words in the English language, which is vapid. I love that word, and that was the presentation I was subjected to. And yeah, zero mention of COVID, anything. I was just like, what are you people doing? You know? So, but the fact, like, when unions get involved, they're kind of like the Ents in the Lord of the Rings. You know, like it takes them a lot to get moving, but once they get moving, like they will really get stuff done. So I am hopeful here too, you know, like once these massive unions, teachers union and the nurses unions, I think are like the two of the big ones. But honestly, you know, like our government has done everything it can to cripple unions in this country. They've done a really good job through a lot of corporate pressuring. And but the unions are still here. They got a lot of people, and when those guys get fired up, like they make stuff happen. So I'm very pro union and excited to see some movement on this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Um, I actually just have one more thing that I want to quickly just show you. So, as much as I'm really excited about CDPH and their turnaround last week to see me to talk about respirators, I do need to point this out. Dr. Erica Pan, the head of California Department of Public Health, here she is on Threads, Thread, which is the meta version of Twitter, essentially. My family and I are ready for the winter virus season. Got our flu and COVID-19 vaccines this weekend. Get yours soon, too, if you haven't yet.
Erica, that shirt, dude, I can't even with that shirt. I'm so sorry.
You noticed the shirt. The first thing I noticed was the face.
Oh
right?
man, how much would you have to pay me to wear that shirt? I would do it for like a benefit maybe, but man, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to wear that shirt, dude.
Well, the shirt, we'll unpack that another time.
Okay, yeah, no.
Feelings about the shirt as well, but what I really have feelings about is right here in front of me.
Yeah, dude.
This is wild. It's my new favorite word. When I talk about all this stuff, everything's always wild.
This is pretty wild.
So here we have nurse with gloves on. Good start.
She's wearing a respirator.
Respirator.
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you got a lady back here wearing hers. This guy's not doing that. Yeah, he's just doing his work.
Maybe he's between respirators right now. Let's be
look,
charitable.
I can tell we're not doing this vaccinating outside here, and this looks like a newer building, so that's great. But again, Dr. Pan, you are 1.5 feet away from somebody else. You have been all over the state of California, all over Sacramento, all over the internet talking about public health and how we are having a surge or just got over a surge. I guess we're like on the tail end of the surge. So the surge is now kind of on its end. But as I think a lot of smart people on the internet have pointed out, like 30% of the infections happen after the peak of the surge. Like, it's a big chunk, right? So, yeah, I was disappointed.
You would think
not wearing a mask.
One would be, I think, be reasonable to think that your public health leaders should be modeling the behavior they want the population that they're accountable for, to do. Like, it's just, it's just like, you're like, what? Like, how? My question is like, like, you go into this thing, you're not wearing a respirator. You see this person who's giving you the things wearing a respirator. What, like, aren't you curious what that person knows, why they decided to wear a respirator?
Right, but not even that. She knows. It's called community care. She knows that asymptomatic spread happens. She's not wearing a respirator. She doesn't care.
She doesn't care. She doesn't care.
And that's disturbing to me. You are the head of CDPH. You have got the leading environmental science, environmental medicine people working underneath you. Wear a flippin' respirator when you go to get your vaccine.
I will say, she does look happy.
I love to see the smile. I'm happy she's happy.
She does look happy.
I'd like to point out, Dr. Pan, the vaccine doesn't work for the first 2 weeks-ish that you have it, right?
Dude.
So even it's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. This vaccine that you're just getting today isn't going to protect you against what you might be encountering in that room today. And presumably you feel like you need to get a new vaccine today because you're not protected by the vaccine you got the last time you had a shot. So because they wane, right? Vaccines are great, but they wane, and they are also not protecting, in my opinion, sufficiently against long-term bad outcomes. And they also do not protect, in my opinion, sufficiently the people around you from getting sick if you are sick. And this is a woman who's going in and out of hospitals, in and out of the doctor's offices, presumably, in and out of politicians' offices and whatever you do as a head of public health. So yeah, just a little bit disappointing.
I mean, here's the thing. You either know that it's airborne and you know how bad it is because, look, she's recommending you get the COVID vaccine. Why is she recommending that you get the COVID vaccine? Presumably because she knows that getting COVID is bad for you. So she knows she either knows the things and she just is just doing the opposite of that, which, okay, or she doesn't know. And both of those are just like really bad like scenarios, right? Like and to be fair, I have seen some like people who study COVID and stuff, and they have their personal risk thing, and you'll see them at events sometimes, and they'll get like a ton of heat from not wearing like a mask. And like, yeah, like a lot of the time, like you read their response, and you're like, dude, that's not a good response. Like you should have just like said something else, you know. But like,
And I don't like mask shaming people because it is a personal choice. Like at
sure,
some point, you have your risk calculus, I have mine. But at this particular moment, it doesn't make any sense to me. You are going in to get your vaccine because your old vaccine has waned.
I I'll stick to my point that I hit over and over and over again. This job is not making a cappuccino at Starbucks. You know, it's not. These jobs are not the same job. You sign up for this job, your job is to model behavior. Your job is to be accountable. Your job is to fall on your sword. Your job is to get screamed at by crazy people. That's what you signed up for. Like it is. That's the job. If you don't,
And so she's
nobody's
getting screamed at by us, who's
no.
actually following the advice that her department is given.
Well, I mean, look, nobody's forcing her to sign up for this job. You know, like part of your job is to get exposure to criticism, whether it's legit or not, you know, and to model behavior. Like I really feel like that's what you signed up for. And if you're going to do that, then do the job. If you're not going to do that, go do another job. Lady, you can make cappuccinos. You have a lot of credentials. I'm sure she's super amazingly skilled. She doesn't have to do this job. You know, nobody's forcing her.
Right. Well, let's just ignore the Fauci part of the shirt, but also just read the bottom part, which it says trust in science, right?
Sure.
We are talking about aerosol science. We are talking about indoor air quality, which is part of science. Like, we know that the science says very clearly that long COVID can be reduced by taking your vaccine, but it certainly isn't eliminated. We know that there are cumulative effects of repeat infection. We know that your own department has been like very, very closely monitoring the science and doing a better job than the CDC. So, like, I don't know. I just got questions here. This really bothers me.
I mean,
One day I'll tell you some other stories about how I've actually spoken to Dr. Pan, and I'm concerned.
I mean, look, it is gaslighting, right? It is highly toxic gaslighting to wear a shirt that says trust in the science and then show up to a place during an airborne pandemic that you know has killed and continues to kill and disable many people in your state that you are in control and is your job to provide messaging for. Like, you know all this, and you have a shirt that says, like, it's so bonkers to me. Like,
And
you
and
know,
you're not like so this the
it is
guidance
wild. It is wild. You're right. It is
and like
wild.
the guidance says like when you go indoors and you're around other people, like you should wear a mask because, you know, if you want to stay protected. Like that's not happening here.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I think that like leadership is really critical in moments like this, and you know, she could wear any shirt she wanted to wear. That was the shirt she chose to wear.
It's a
And
statement. She made a statement that says trust in science and not wear a respirator or a mask. You know, I mean, she did it, you know. She made a
yeah,
statement.
yep, she did. And all this to say that like I just think we could be doing a whole lot better on the public health front in California. Guidance is great. Uh, we have great guidance. Whether you choose to follow the guidance is something else. And if the leader who's making the guidance doesn't follow the guidance, why
What is
is
that?
anyone else except for like uber nerds who actually are reading this stuff and agree with all the scientists gonna follow you? Like it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to get her on record a quote from this photo and why she did what she did, you know, because people have a way of putting it in their own words and you're like, well, they said the quiet part out loud, so and now we have it. So good, you
You
know.
got to meet people where they are, Sarah. That's what she's trying to do.
She is. She definitely did that.
She's not educating people as to why they might want to go someplace else. Like, you know, the massive increases in your risk with multiple infections and I don't know, the fact that it's associated with elevated risks of HPV related carcinoma.
Seems
Yeah.
serious. I'm not a medical professional, but
Nor am I.
but that sounds kind of scary.
But I know how to read, and I don't want,
Those
HPV
cancers.
cancer to be risk to be increased.
No. As usual, now I'm scared and alarmed and slightly stressed, but also I had a good time. So it's a cornucopia of emotions.
Yeah, I mean, as in the words of one person who I follow on Twitter, don't be scared, be prepared.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to get the world to,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if everyone is better prepared, then it won't be so bad.
Let's leave it at that.
All right, Issara, look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks, Lisa. Have a good
Bye,
night.
everyone. You too.
Bye.